It is I, the guy. And we're back with the, well, whatever this show is. No. Okay, the stream is working. Fantastic. But we're back with whatever it is I've decided to make this show. The tea is not moldy this time. I refrigerated it. So we're going to cut right into the chase. Because, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I talked, since last week I talked about TV shows, if this week I talked about video games? I had a double today because, you know, Habibi decided to not want to work. So we're going to be crazy today. We'll do the video games next time. We're going to be crazy today. So I'm going to light the cigar now, which that in and of itself is gonna it's probably could be considered kind of crazy for this show. And I'm already, also I got the PNG already. I was thinking ahead. Anyway. Alright. Shit. There we go. Got it. Alright. We're gonna do, okay. Oh yeah, that'll make a great thumbnail. Alright, here we go. Burning my fingers with this one. Ugh. That is a strong earthiness, and we're not even all the way lit up. With a lot of spice that sits on the back of the throat. Oh yeah. Kind of just waiting a second here. Okay. I think we got it. I think we can strike another one. I need to look here, not there. You know, you know. This is the monitor where I can see everything, including the chat. This is the phone where the camera is. I need to look here when I'm not looking at the chat. I need to not look at myself. Except for maybe the mic part, just to see if it's fucking up. Anyway, we're gonna try and get this lit. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at it. Let me just stare at it for a minute, and we'll see if it's actually lit up. And then I can just start saying stuff. Because I thought of a handful of things to say, but we're really just going to see where this goes. It's going to be... It's going to be a bag. I don't know if it's going to be mixed, but, insert racial joke here, because I said the word mixed. I've met a lot of mixed people in my life. For some of them, it's been obvious. Others have been better at hiding it. Okay, I think with just a couple of puffs, we can do this. This will be fine. This will just go, and I'll just go, and we'll see how many times I lose smoke. I don't think I lost smoke a single time last week, which I don't remember. I mean, it's a first for this year, I think. That sounds about right. I don't care. I don't care. I got matches for days. I got matches for weeks. I could utilize only matches and probably burn down this entire apartment building if I desired. However, you know, my neighbors aren't annoying, and the people in the area aren't annoying, except for the apartment manager. But that's just because she keeps texting me, you know. Hmm. Okay, the bottom is starting to burn. Right, so I doubled today, which was not at all fantastic. Contrary to popular belief, I do not enjoy long shifts at my job. You know, Instead I prefer normal size shifts, so that way it doesn't, allow me too much free time with which I could complete all my which with which I could complete, large swathes of various projects that I'm currently undertaking in not an adequate amount of time. And therefore, those things would be drastically reduced, and they'd probably encounter just the same problems that I have right now. But who cares? It's fine. I guess it's more overtime. It's great. That's more money that I'm not going to get in a bonus 2 months from now that I wasn't going to get anyways because the owner's wife loves inventing new ways to fuck us over. And the primary issue with this situation is that none of us are allowed to say we hate her to her, but it's kind of something that we just kind of openly talk about with each other. I think I'll be the first. It'll be great, you know. After a certain amount of time, I'm just gonna lose it. I'm just gonna lose my shit. It's gonna be great. It'll probably be after a corporate inspection when I just lose my mind and quit. Just show that no, this was not a descent into madness. I've lived in this basement for a while. We've been there. Whatever. But anyway, I doubled, and it was fine mostly. Except for the part where the walk-in doesn't work completely, and also the part where the HVAC guys showed up and then didn't do anything because they did not understand the concept that since the intake air from the outside was cold, the inside of the walk-in was cold. And the walk-in is not cooling like it should be, so therefore when the intake air is hot, say for example at high noon, the inside of the walk-in begins to warm up a little bit because of that. And the goddamn machine isn't working to fulfill its purpose of keeping things somewhere between 35 and 40 degrees at all times. you know so now we have to get new HVAC guys to show up to hopefully fix the goddamn thing. It'll be magnificent. On top of this is I waited around all fucking day for the supervisor to show up, only for him to show up at, you know, like fucking 7 o'clock. Great. 3 hours later than I fully expected you to. Luckily the rush was over, so I didn't have to put up with that at the same time. That'd have been fantastic. I was wrong about the bottom burning. Now some of you might be thinking, GZ, why would you share this with us other than to just bitch? And yeah, I mean, yeah, I shared it to bitch, but there's an important point to be learned from all of this that I have not yet disclosed to you. That being, I was not going to stream today because I was awoken from my peaceful, deep slumber to be informed that Habibi has failed us once again. It's starting to feel intentional. Really, it's really starting to feel intentional. But yeah, and so I wasn't going to stream as a result of not obtaining sufficient rest from yesterday, and I was convinced to, but on the condition that the boys would be gang stalking the chat, Little did they know that my intention in luring them in like this would be that I would use my enigmatic powers beyond their comprehension in order to turn the tables and proceed to gang stalk them single-handedly. How would I accomplish this, some of you might say? Well, other than, mysterious and arcane abilities that I have cultivated and possess, one way that I would do this was quite simply because I'm a pre-schizophrenic, and I would be able to use the simulacrums of people within my mind in order to, do whatever, the whole, like, reverse gang stalking thing. Now, some of you might be thinking, what the fuck are you going on about? I will address this after I get the bottom of this fucking cigar properly lit because it's bothering me. Hmm. All right, we're gonna need to take a few puffs on this before, just to make sure, and to get it caught up with the rest. Did I mention the absolute just wheelbarrow full? I just realized that my ashtray is not on the keyboard tray, it is on the floor. It seems like a recipe for disaster, but I'm also extremely tempted to just leave it there and kind of just like try to take pot shots at it with the cherry. But I also know that that would be disastrous, especially considering that, my options would be either to steal my vacuum from my mother, in which case it's not stealing, it's my property, I bought it, or to just borrow the vacuum from the store. Neither of which are appealing to me at this current moment because it is 4 in the morning. I also need to pick up the fan when I depart for the laundry area, so that way I can ventilate this room better and faster. Ugh, my feet hurt, but only in that like little area where my second toe actually meets the rest of my foot bones proper. And it's on both feet too. It sucks because I usually press that part up against the wall whenever I have whenever I stretch my legs out. This sucks. This sucks. Working 14 hours. 14 hours? It was 11 to 1. Yeah, that's 14 hours. Yeah, working 14 hours fucking sucks. I can see why I don't do that anymore normally. Anyway, we're gonna test the cigar, and then we're gonna go back to talking about reverse gang stalking with my pre-schizophrenia and other arcane abilities. Hmm. Oh yeah, that is, whew, that is a hefty amount of spice. Woo! Okay. So, how are we going to do this? Utilizing simulacrums. So it's quite simple. I'll just make simulacrums of the boys and then just, torment them inside the confines of my own mind. I do this already with my boss, except I use that to guide me whenever, I don't want to bother my boss. Which has yielded various results. I've also found that this will be useful in 20 years after Aiden dies horribly. So that way I can just, keep him around for the rest of VTC's development. It'll be like he never left. And then by the time I hit retirement age, I probably will have completely developed schizophrenia, which means that I will be able to run entire campaigns utilizing only phantoms, and it will be magnificent. We'll finally be able to play out all of the weird ideas that just keep churning around in my mind over and over again but only surfacing at seemingly random points whenever something extremely tangentially related pops up. I don't know where I was going with this. I've completely lost the plot. I think I just wanted to use the word gang stalking multiple times because I recently learned what that meant, and I find it to be quite funny. So there you go. There's that. I don't know. But really, realistically, what's probably going to happen in 20 years after Aiden dies is, he's not going to be vanquished into hell where we all belong. Instead, he's probably just going to haunt me and, whisper an endless cavalcade of ideas that I will inevitably have to write into VTC because that is just what happens now, except he's alive, which therefore means that I only have to, which means that, I only have to, do this 1 day a week when, we get together to do work, and other times I just sit and pray that, you know, I just sit and pray that like, okay, let's hope that we don't get horrendously sidetracked, and that something magnificent happens. This is not the case ever. But I'm not actually complaining, despite my tone and demeanor about the whole thing. The distractions are good because they keep me from thinking about the absolute mountainous fuck ton of work that is necessary to complete this project, and therefore allows for small but necessary steps of progress to be made randomly, seemingly, and also scheduled, which is good. This will change in 20 years when I have a schizophrenic phantom of Aiden throwing ideas at me, and the ghost of Aiden also throwing ideas at me. If I'm not already insane by then, having two of them constantly will definitely do that. Because at that point, you know, how am I gonna, how am I gonna, I was about to say, how am I gonna, I was gonna say, how am I going to, and then insert thing that I do that Aiden finds objectionable here. However, I could not think of, thing that Aiden finds objectionable to insert. It's probably gonna be like, why aren't you working on this at least once a week? That's probably going to be like the main thing that like Spirit from Hell Aiden is going to say to me a lot. And like, well, I don't want to. I want to play. Mecha Break is not going to be up in 20 years. Whatever I'm playing then. Helldivers 2. Is Helldivers 2 going to be up in 20 years? Probably. Hopefully. Yeah, I don't think so. Hopefully not. All things have their time. All things shut down and die eventually. All right. Let's just hope that Helldivers doesn't become bad before that happens. But then again, its death will probably be brought along by the fact that it has become bad. Or, some shiny new thing is out that's even better that, steals the entire player base. In which case, well, it's not because it became bad, it's just because something better came along. I don't know which is preferable in this case. You know, you know what? No, I rescind that statement because I've made a decision. It is better that the thing does not become bad, and that instead something superior kills it. So that way it dies good. That that probably made sense. In case some of you haven't gathered by this point, I am quite tired. I almost passed out when I got into the shower because the warmth of the water relaxed me so much. However, I remembered that I, agreed to do this stream instead of going to sleep. I am probably only going to smoke this halfway down. Let's just be honest. Let's just put that on the table. Let's just be honest. I'm going to smoke this down to about halfway. I'm going to put it down so it goes out, and I'm going to go to bed. I have things to do tomorrow. I thought, oh, wouldn't it be a great idea if, I woke up a little bit earlier than I normally do on my days off and, go on tour to all the people that I've been meaning to, go see and do that and, accomplish things, this is becoming less likely with every, couple minutes that pass because, not only do I tend to oversleep on my days off, but, you know, typically nothing gets done until, Thursday evening. Which, ugh, this is where we return to the rant that I do more often than not, where it's like, oh, I need to be more strict with myself in order to, get things done. And I'm just not gonna. I'm just gonna say. I'm just gonna save you all the trouble. If you've been watching these, you already know the. You already know the bit. You already know the talking points. Just kind of pause. Just pause the VOD or whatever, and just kind of go through it real quick. Just have a flashback to one of many previous streams where I have done so. Not the one where I yell at myself. That one was a little bit. That one's a little bit too impassioned for to kind of lace over me now. So instead it's just we'll just kind of go and see what happens, and hopefully it's not completely terrible because I've been getting a lot of overtime. Not a lot, but I've been getting overtime pretty consistently for about a month, and ugh. I mean, the money's nice, I guess, sort of. It would be nice if I didn't have to pay so much in fucking taxes, you know. But hey, whatever. Thinking about tomorrow and the many mystical things that it will bring about, there is a question that does stick into my mind. That being, when is my boss gonna get back? Is he gonna drive in approximately 5 to 6 hours back here to Martin, drop off the fucking dog and go to work? I guess it's not. I guess that timeline doesn't exactly add up. But I also don't remember when he goes to work today. I mean, all I know is that I don't. Hell yeah. But with that being said, that means until he gets back, I am the guy who will be called. Which, oh yeah, it's gonna be that fucking lizard. He's gonna be the one to call me. He's gonna be like, "Hey, the HVAC guys are here, and they need you to," and I'm gonna have to crawl my miserable husk out of fucking bed again at some ungodly time. It's probably gonna, it's gonna be at like 11. It's gonna be 11 o'clock. Which keep in mind it is almost 4 a.m., which is 7 hours from now. If I were to go to sleep right now, by the time that fucking lizard calls me, I'm gonna get 7 hours of sleep. We compound this with the 5 to 6 I got yesterday, and we're looking at a growing deficit that I am not looking forward to, making up for in the near future. Which, speaking of the near future, let's talk about the near past. I skipped another anime Sunday because I'm an idiot and I wasn't in the mood. Which sucks because the times when I can't watch anime, I am in the mood for anime. And the times when I can watch anime, I am not in the mood. This sucks. This sucks because, at this point I am in a state of never watching anime, but wanting to. And it sucks. What is even on my currently watching? Let's take a look. I'm going to take a look on the other monitor, because you people don't need to see what I'm watching except off the reflection of my glasses. I've got 9 different things on my currently watching, and some of these are going to take longer than others. Oh, no. And others are not going to take long to finish out at all. There's 3 episodes of this left. What the fuck? I should just do that. And, well, we'll get to it eventually. Oh. I am tired. I should have covered my mouth with that yawn so I can get a full yawn in. Oh. Oh, God. All right. I'm gonna retain consciousness. I don't have any more. I don't have any more coconut water, Mountain Dew, Gatorade stuff. Also, as it turns out, that yeah, that stuff does slowly seep out of the bottom of the blender. There was a small pool on my desk after about a day of just letting it, just kind of sit there in the blender, which was bad because, I had to clean up a small pool of liquid off of my desk. What this also meant was that I located the leak and decided to, lick the coconut dew off of the bottom of the blender. The problem with this is that there was also some kind of machine residue on it that completely tasted horrible and stuck to my tongue for 10 minutes. I licked the bottom of it without thinking. Like, oh man, maybe there's machine residue on the bottom of the blender. Like I should have thought. But whatever. I drank sanitizer water at Taco Bell. Like probably getting close to 8 years ago. Oh wait, that was no, that was 2017. That was about 8 years ago actually, where I drank sanitizer water for $100. It was great. Easiest $100 I ever made. You know? Yeah, it made my stomach feel bad for a few hours, but it was $100 and I didn't vomit. Cut to the time that I did vomit at Domino's shortly after starting, and you know, just in the middle of prepping sauces, just whatever. Got a trash can at my right side, got bottles in front of me with bags of sauce liquids that I needed to squeeze into the bottles. It was great. I vomited right there. The shift lead in charge, who could be most accurately described as a sentient ball of anxiety, became activated at the sight and sounds of my vomiting. She then became concerned that I would not be able to handle the shift, to which I reassured her, no, I'm good now. Because I'm pretty sure all I had vomited up was strawberry lemonade at that point. I hadn't eaten anything yet. But hey, I was still getting used to the 2-job life where I work 16 hours a fucking day. Last year was a mess. And while I am glad to be rid of it, the, two paychecks, the two paychecks coming in was somewhat nice. It didn't provide me with any extra spending money because my bills have only gone down since then. But it was nice to see the income coming in. Not so nice to watch it disappear into the cavernous maw of my bills. But at least I had some peace of mind that the cavernous maw would be fed and would not utterly consume me, which would lead to some negative consequences. Up to and including other people having to pay for my shit. But I kept with it, and such things have still not happened since those bills have come into being. And so, I intend to continue that streak until those bills go away forever. Or until the earth, crumbles and collapses, which, while unlikely, is possible at every given moment. Also, this has gone out, so we made it almost 30 minutes. Huzzah! I really need to take a... What? There we go. Really need to take a few breaths in between these rants. Start burning, start burning, start burning. There we go. The spice of this has settled down quite significantly, or maybe my palate has adjusted to it. Nope, never mind. There it is. Now that's kind of spread out over the entire palate. I'm surprised my nose isn't running, but I'm still dry as a bone up in sinus land. Which, for my mom, who will eventually watch this VOD, to put it in to put it in terms that she'll find repugnant and yell at me for later, I ain't got any boogers, Mom. So, we're doing good. I'm gonna have to refill this soon. Luckily, I've got the pitcher sitting on my bed, and it will not sit out for an extended period like the last time when it got moldy and I didn't realize, and it got really sour. So there we go. Of the questionable things I've drank, we can add Taco Bell sanitizer water and mold. Ugh. Then again, I guess, then again, it's kind of, whatever. I mean, I ate a towel at Taco Bell, just to prove a point. I also ate a bag, also to prove a point. I did not end up eating Diane, which would have proven an even greater point. But by not doing so, I also proved a point. That point being that she is not food cost. Because the idea at Taco Bell was that anything that was eaten would become food cost, as opposed to whatever other cost that it normally would be. And so therefore, technically, medium bags, sanitizer water, and blue towels, should count as food cost at Taco Bell because I ate those things. The bag, easy to eat, not a problem. It's paper, it's whatever. The sanitizer water, I drank that. Not eating technically, but it is still imbibing. The towel, completely unsatisfying. They did not taste good, and I had to cut it into pieces with a box cutter in order to, actually make it, so that it would actually, so that, I couldn't chew the towel. All right, those weird fibrous towels that have probably put some kind of, horrible shit in my system, they were not chewable. At least not with, my teeth. And so, whatever. Those things are food cost. They probably aren't now that they've finally gotten rid of my, now that they've finally gotten rid of my ass. But I remember. And, I'm sure, at least one person still works there who, remembers hearing of me eating these things. And so therefore, they remember. Maybe not directly. And maybe it would take me, reminding them, hey, remember when I ate that stuff? For them to go, oh yeah, I do remember. And then they remember. It's great. It's whatever. I'm really going hard today with the, just going and going. Oh. Another thing I was reminded of today is that I created a work group chat that does not include the higher-ups because, well, we hate the higher-ups. Not so much. I mean, sort of. Kind of, sort of. Basically just to stop them from coming in and raining on our parade. But I realized at work today that it's technically a work group chat. And so therefore, I can use it for work stuff. And so maybe I should, just direct the boys a little bit. Like, okay, guys, here's some stuff. And here's what I think about it. And here's how I'd like to direct you guys, with it. It's going to make the group chat a little bit less fun, but I mean, it's whatever. It's partially what it is for. The other part of what it is for is like game coordination, which so far has not happened whatsoever. Which is, whatever. We don't exactly have overlapping time off, which makes such things quite difficult. Which, I mean, that's kind of what happens when, you try to coordinate with a bunch of guys who all work at the same place, and if you have overlapping time off, great, good, fantastic. You can, these things are easier. But when you don't, it's just like, well, what are we doing at this point? Also, it doesn't help that I don't really play the games these guys play. They play Rust and Call of Duty, and I don't. Although, if Black Ops 1 ever becomes a reasonable price, I would snatch that up so fast because Black Ops 1 Zombies was was pretty good. It's also the only zombies that I've played. So maybe other games have good zombies, but I mean, you know, Black Ops 1 Zombies was good. I enjoyed it. You know, I wasn't particularly good at it, but I was also in middle school. Yeah, yeah, no, I was in middle school. So, hopefully, from then to now, my ability to play zombies and be good at it have improved, even though I haven't touched the game in forever. And I'm also not really an FPS guy. I'm more of a third-person shooter kind of guy, which is why I don't aim down sights over much in Helldivers. I do it occasionally, if I have a scope, and need to hit a target, 2,000 meters away in order to, do something in the game, but that's just how Helldivers be. Also, weapon customization has made it so that you can put scopes on stuff that doesn't have scopes if it's available. Thanks, Arrowhead. Why not make every gun a sniper rifle? That could be fun. Just completely unlock the customization. Fuck it. And once we get pistol customization, can I put a scope on my pistol? That would be stupid. It would be so stupid, but it would also be really funny. I don't want iron sights on my Senator. I want the 2 times optical zoom. Or, whatever. I don't remember what it is. I'm too tired. I'm going to try and stretch this out to about an hour and a half, and then we're going to call it quits, regardless of how much we burn this down. Because I do have things that I want to get done tomorrow. And I do want to sleep. I really want to sleep. My relationship with my bed has not changed since last year. In terms of, me enjoying, being wrapped up in my sarcophagus to rest. However, the intensity of our bond has dwindled somewhat. This is because I'm not constantly thinking, man, I can't wait to get back and go back to bed. That was last year when I survived on naps, except on the days that I was off from Domino's and Taco Bell. That was horrible because all I thought about was, man, I can't wait to go to sleep again for at max 4 hours unless I was off from one of those jobs, in which case I could either sleep in or go to bed early, which the going to bed early thing never happened. The sleeping in thing, yeah, that happened because, good God, working 80 hours a week is not a picnic, and not having overlapping days off is also not great. It happened occasionally. But I kind of told my boss back at the Greenberg Pizza, I said, just put me, just put me in wherever, but as long as I'm out of here by, as long as I'm out by like 8 o'clock, so I can go back to my place and change, maybe get some eating done, so that way I could be somewhat fueled, at least in terms of food stuff, to work another 8-hour shift. What this manifested as was working an 8-hour shift, going back home, eating dinner extremely quickly, taking at most a 3-hour nap, and then waking up again to work another 8-hour shift, to then, go back home to go to bed and then sleep for probably about 4 hours, and then wake up and do it all again. It was great until, I had a day off, in which case, again, sleeping in or thinking about going to bed early, but not actually doing it. Last year was a riot, as evidenced by the, kind of negative tone that kind of pervaded season 1. And also the frequently missed streams. I'm pretty sure I only did 40 of those. And there's 52 weeks in a year. So, you do the math for how many I missed. And, I did miss the first half of the year for this one. And, that was mostly due to schedule instability and, for the most part, also not having, really the drive to sit down and have a smoke and ramble about what was on my mind. Because mostly what was on my mind was, when is my schedule going to stabilize? And speaking of schedule stabilizations, I forgot to ask the supervisor about vacation, because it has been almost 10 years since I've had a vacation, and it definitely shows to the people who know me. The Quesenold once remarked that yes, I do in fact need a vacation, and I agree with him. You know, Wezzy is an insane, racist man, but that does not prevent him from making good points once in a while, with which I agree, typically. Other times, I'll just kind of watch, see what he's up to. You know, the life of a teacher is beyond me. Even though at one point I had thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I went back to school and, got a master's in philosophy and then got a PhD in philosophy and then became a professor of philosophy at a college? Wouldn't that have been cool? Wouldn't that have been neat? The answer is yes. However, as I have learned, getting a master's degree in clinical psychology, once you kind of get into the nitty gritty of what a job in subject you are interested in, the deeper you get into the nitty gritty of that, the more you realize, this is not what I was led to believe it was, and now I hate it. Thanks. Thanks, education. It was not that long since my last draw. At least I don't think so. So we're going to burn through another match here, with the hope that, hopefully it'll be the last one I've earned today. Woo! Okay, alright, I gotta navigate this. I got ash in the back of my hand, and I have a lit match in the other. Okay, we're good. Hmm. There we go. I also realized that it's been a few days since I've done my dailies, which makes me feel bad. I've also really gotten back into Path to Nowhere, which is to say that I more consistently log into Path to Nowhere to, do my dailies, as opposed to not doing them for weeks at a time. Because I still love the game. The aesthetic is great, the lore is fantastic, and, it's just another game where I just, like, develop people, and, it just seems to be what I do, you know? And since Path to Nowhere doesn't have exclusively women, I guess, I go from being a women's acquisition and development specialist to a, sinner acquisition and development specialist, also known as the Chief. In between, intermediate kidnappings as necessitated by the story. You know, the story of Path to Nowhere basically, after a certain point, has the chief as this powerful, in some cases almost godlike entity, but at the same time, you get kidnapped and you're fucking powerless. It's fantastic. It's great. And of course, I am exaggerating various parts of that just for dramatic effect, because please play the game. It's fantastic. It's great. You know, I enjoy it, and I imagine that starting an account now would reap various delicious rewards to jumpstart the whole process. That being said, the end game still requires. I cannot do end game stuff on my computer on an emulator. I have to do it on my phone because I like having the ability, just touch and not have to touch in potentially, two different places at once, so that way I can queue up actions quickly. Meanwhile, with a mouse, I have to drag it, and even on max DPI, it's still not as satisfying as using two thumbs, you know? But my phone right now is a camera, and so I can't really, utilize it to maximum effectiveness. Did I get ash on my shirt? Well, no, I've got ash on everything. That's what happens when I start. That's what happens now that I've started smoking in here. Also, my can of air is depleted, so blowing all this crap off of my keyboard is, just limited to me going.
which is minimally effective now that I look at what I just did, but I also didn't. That was also just a really short breath. I didn't want to hit the ashtray and send all of that just up. I've already spilled the ashes in here once before. I still haven't vacuumed that up. I came up with a different, genius solution for that one. Oh. Yeah, okay. I said I was going to try and stretch to an hour and a half. Turns out I lied. I'm not feeling it. I'm just too tired. So, hopefully, this mad rant has, fulfilled the quota for the boys for this week. And I think Aiden said he wanted to work on gear stuff for VTC, so I'm probably gonna stream that too, and we're gonna see what that turns into. So if TTRPG stuff interests you, tune in on Thursday whenever I decide to stream that. And yeah, until then, later.